we doing?
Number 1 to 10.
7.
4. It was 7.
There we go.
All right. I want to thank each of you for taking the time out of your evenings to hear this year's SGA Top 4 debate. My name is Carrie Mattingly, and I'm running to represent your voice next year as Academic Vice President. My list of SGA accomplishments is extensive, but I hope that by the end of this debate, I prove myself as a highly qualified and experienced candidate for this position. However, I'm also a firm believer in the fact that experience is only part of the equation. The other parts of that equation include passion, professionalism, work ethic, and the quality of realistic, student-driven ideas for the betterment of our student government and consequently our student body. Throughout the past year and a half, I have worked diligently to further the student interest within the realm of academic policy. Whether I exemplified that diligence by attending academic policy board meetings as a task force freshman when my attendance wasn't necessary, or by working hard over the summer to make sure there were 7 resolutions to discuss and pass at our fall retreat. My efforts never falter when it comes to representing student interests in these needs on campus. If given the privilege to serve as AVP, I would continue the work of past AVPs concerning grade scale and consistency, advisor accountability, library services, and reforms to the general education program. In addition, I would propose more cooperation within SGA and faculty members working to infuse critical thinking skills into the classroom. By setting realistic goals and maintaining a professional relationship with the undergraduate council, faculty senate, and the provost, the limits to what the office of academic vice president can accomplish will be greatly diminished. The essence of my job is to solicit student opinions on these issues and then work with the appropriate administrators to make sure that things can get done. We as students invest a lot in our university, and I think that the university should invest similarly in its students. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Osai Graham, a junior Pan-African Studies and History major, and I'm running for Academics Vice President on the Cards Unite slate. I believe that I am best fit for this position because of my leadership experiences and tangible results that I brought to the campus while being active. I've been recognized on a national level for my advocacy. Working with the African American Male Initiative, a program geared at raising graduation retention rates for African American males, I've also received the Outstanding Men's Award from the American College Student Personnel Association as a task force member. From being a student representative on the Cardinal Covenant Scholarship Committee to assisting over 2,000 students with their college transition during orientation as a student orientation staff member, I've worked in the capacity to assist my peers towards graduation socially and academically. I am a passionate, relatable individual who has built connections amongst faculty and staff since my freshman year, and I am dedicated to work in the best interest of the students as your AVP.
First question, actually I formulated this question with the help of this year's AVP. And his kind of question was, academic initiatives can many times take long periods of time to complete, over a year time period, longer than maybe you'll be in office. How do you plan for this, and when you create your goals for the next meeting?
I will first. From what I understand, being academics vice president, it does take a long time to get things passed because you have to have that relationship with faculty and staff. They're the individuals who, at the end of the day, push things through. But you need an aggressive AVP who's going to be at the table, who's going to push for the rights, push for the privileges for students. We've been fighting for this A+, A- issue for 15 years, and Provost Willinghans has proposed that we remove the A-. So we need an AVP who's aware of that and who's going to be at the table and is going to help that become a reality. I have had experience working with administrators. I work with Vice Provost Billingsley through orientation and through the African American Male Initiative. I worked with Vice Provost Mordine Taylor Archer with Association of Black Students Council of Presidents and through Collegiate 100, and I'm currently speaking with Faculty Staff Senator Joseph Gutman on how I as a student can better serve in pushing that through the A-.
Jody is completely correct in that statement. I think I'm very unique in that I've been able to work closely with the current AVP as well as the past AVP as a task force freshman. As a task force freshman, I did go to every academic policy board meeting. I've seen firsthand this A+ initiative and the evolution of it, and I have my own ideas as to what I think our next step should be. According to my meeting with Jody, there might be a solution on the table before the end of the semester, but if I'm elected and that solution has not yet come to be a reality, I would like to propose that we take away the A+ and A- and make the A 4.0 for that whole 10-point range and leave the rest of the plus-minus system, because I think that there's value in it, there's differentiation in it. But also, like I said, being able to see two different academic vice presidents. I've seen that difficulty, but I also know what they've done, what worked, and what hasn't worked, and I think that that is something that I really bring to the table in terms of running for academic vice president.
Yes, excuse me. This has definitely been an issue that's been a problem. Currently, we're in a system where if you get basically you're not getting rewarded for the extra work you do, but you're being penalized. That's not fair. From the campaigning that I've done for the past couple of years, I'm talking about going into the SAC and sitting down with random students, no matter who they are. Their issue is that they aren't being treated fairly in this system, and the provost has made moves with charging the undergraduate council with research and solutions, and I feel like I can be an individual who's gonna sit on that council and make sure that the A- is removed, and it could be in the best interest of the students.
Kind of going off of, we've discussed the difficulties of maybe getting things moved through because of the longevity sometimes things take. What would you say would be the most pressing issue going in day one as AVP?
The most pressing issue that I'd like to speak about is the power of professionalism and persuasion when it comes to being academic vice president. And that may seem kind of random, but the reason I say it is because I actually got a chance to meet recently with a longtime member of the Faculty Senate. And if you aren't aware, the Faculty Senate is the body that really serves as a direct liaison to faculty, between faculty and the academic vice president. And one thing that I was told, and that kind of alarmed me, to be honest, was that academic vice presidents, AVPs, they come in oftentimes not quite with the most professional persona, and oftentimes not very researched and not very prepared. And I think that's a real tragedy. And the reality is that when you're in a meeting with people 2 or 3 times your age, you really need to know your stuff if you are going to go into a meeting and try to persuade faculty members that the A+ needs to be a 4.3 or that we need to take away an A-. It is absolutely essential that we keep the image of SGA highly professional and that we do our research, we do our homework before we go into these meetings.
I would say the biggest thing is increasing the awareness among students, the SGA academic initiatives. Again, through going out and campaigning and speaking with students, because I don't have much SGA experience, but I feel like if it's a student government association, we should be speaking to the students first. So in that pursuit and speaking with students, a lot of them don't even know what SGA does. A lot of them don't even know what the top 4 is. A lot of them don't know what the legislative branch is. They don't even know that we have a Senate. So it's really important to start increasing awareness of our SGA academic initiatives, because at the end of the day, we're working and we're trying to be elected and we're trying to move SGA forward in the best interest of the students. But how can we represent the students if they don't even know what we're doing and what initiatives we have in place, such as the UofL card swap, UofL swap, which can be a great program, which was actually put in place by President Curtis Frizzell. And that's something that students definitely have to know about. And that's the beginning stages of speaking to the administration, knowing. Yeah.
Continue. I completely agree with Osiah. Increasing awareness is a really pressing need. It's really disheartening when you speak to a student that sits next to you in class and they say, well, SGA doesn't do absolutely anything, so why would I care to vote in this election? There's a real disconnect, and that's something that I think every candidate running this year needs to give attention to and try to work to bridge that disconnect in the next year.
I want to hear a little bit more. I know you both have experience in SGA,
Just a little bit.
And then specifically, give me an instance, one instance, example, story, whatever, from your SGA that you think taught you the most and has given you the experience to be the next AVP. And sorry.
Would you restate the question, please?
What do you have one experience, one story, one instance that you think gave you this experience in your project that you work on, something that you've done that's given you the experience, the background, the knowledge, the capacity to hold the position of academic vice president?
All right. I would say looking back, some of my SGA experience was being a task force freshman. Actually with Brandon, and one of the biggest experiences I had was speaking in front of a group. I'm not going to name the group, but me and Brandon were actually speaking on behalf of the 2020 plan with Brandon and I, and it was completely shot down. It was completely it was a hostile environment. People were like, "Well, what are you here for? You're just a stooge. You're just a person that's in a suit trying to give me information, and I don't want to hear it." And we have 22,000 students that go here. And the majority of them feel that way. They don't know what SGA does. The average student doesn't know. So that was kind of a fire in my heart to get out and do work on behalf of the students. And we have to be knowledgeable of what their issues are. I want to be academics vice president because I want to understand how students feel academics policy should go. They're the ones who we're actually speaking for at the end of the day.
My experience is actually somewhat similar. As a task force freshman last year, I was asked by Curtis to go to the A&S Faculty Senate meeting, and it was when they were discussing the A+ initiative and actually voting on it for, it was when it was a really hot topic within SGA, and a lot of students were hearing about it. And I sat there, Curtis I think was in class, and it was voted, I'm in a room of about 100 different faculty members, and it was voted down nearly unanimously, and I couldn't say anything. That spoke to me in a way that I can't even hardly explain, because yes, I know that the responsibility of the AVP is to represent the students and to hear their concerns. I think that I have a good idea of what students want and what students need in terms of academic policy, but what I think the bridging the gap really comes down to hearing what the faculty have to say and what are their objections to these student concerns and things that SGA bring up. Why are they objecting to it? And how can we better our initiatives and bring people together so that things can actually get done and we don't take 15 years trying to accomplish something.
Kara, this question goes first to you. You both have spoken about pushback from students, and students maybe disagreeing on the importance of SGA or what SGA does, or just not seeing the importance. What is your response to that? How do you respond to students who feel like that? Because from an outsider's perspective, many students in society, state, and address have a strong perspective on SGA.
I often respond to that question actually on a very personal level, because I've put so much into SGA for a year and a half now that it speaks to me personally when someone looks me in the eye and says that SGA doesn't do anything for me, that it doesn't matter. And that's when I generally bring up things like, you know how you have 6 swipes a week, this was last year, but when you have 6 swipes a week on your meal plan, that's because of the work of SGA and the services vice president. And you have to provide those tangible examples. And there's a challenge that comes with being AVP, and that is we don't get many things accomplished in a year. And the trick of making students understand what SGA does in terms of academics is making them realize that yes, these things take a long time, but a lot of behind the scenes work goes into them. And it's difficult because you have to speak to them on that personal level. Otherwise, they're not going to heed very much attention to what you're trying to say. It is a challenge, but I think it's something that in the past I've addressed very personally, and I think I've changed a number of people's opinions as far as whether SGA does or doesn't do work.
One of the true strengths of the student body is their ability to hold the administration accountable, and being able to remind students of their ability to do that is probably the most powerful thing that we have here at this university. So if I go to a student and I say, what is your biggest concern? Most likely a lot of them are going to say, well, one of my biggest concerns is advising. So I have to be knowledgeable of my policies and my platforms, and which me as AVP, one of the big ones would be improving advisor, actually implementing advisor evaluations. So that we can, if an advisor isn't doing their job, or if an advisor is putting a student on the wrong track, then they can be held accountable. And if you tell a student that, if you let them know that they have control and have a way to impact that, then the power is put back in that student's hands, and they feel like SGA really does work for them. Another initiative that I would like to push as AVP is the implementation of the advisor track. Advisor track is a system that athletics is currently using to make sure that all athletes actually are on a path to graduation. And that'd be great for something that for our students to have here on this campus. So again, we have to make that connection for students and help them understand that they have the power to hold the university accountable. And that's what's going to make SGA relevant to them.
I completely agree. Specifically, the advisor track system, from what I understand from Jody, that is actually going to start being implemented university-wide in the fall, which I think is an absolutely fantastic way to address that problem. Serving on the Admissions and Appeals Committee within ANS has been very eye-opening, because students come in or they submit these appeals and they say, here I am, a senior ready to graduate, and supposedly I need another science general education credit, but according to my advisor in 2008, she didn't say that I needed this. And then we are faced with the choice of, do we write off that requirement, or do we make them stay another semester and pay the tuition to take that class? And a program like Advisor Track and holding both the advisors and the students accountable will really, I think, eliminate problems like that.
All right, now we're going to go on to students.
Do I have a chance
questions.
to?
Oh, do you have something to say?
Oh.
Go for it.
What I was going to say is it is very important that this program has a smooth transition. It needs to be implemented, but it needs to have a smooth transition. And I have experience working with advisors. I was on the student orientation staff for 2 summers, in which I was with advisors all over campus. So I know them personally. I'm a person that's not going to just say, hey, we want to bring this program in, and it's going to put all of you towards scrutiny. Well, there's a diligent way to do that. And I'm a person, I've already kind of built some connections with several advisors across campus and across the university.
Harry, this question is started with you. What will you do as AVP to work with the administration to help ensure that those students with disabilities are able to succeed with the
I would begin working with the very people in the disability office. That's actually a great question. I serve on an RSO called Cards Uniting for Disability Awareness. It's brand new this year. Natasha Alvarez is president. We've been able to actually connect with people in the disability office, and it's very difficult to start an RSO, and we're definitely learning that. But I think that's a great piece of background information that I have in terms of making sure that students with disabilities get the same educational opportunities that every other student at this university gets, because that right there is an element of diversity. I was speaking with my running mates earlier, and we were talking about how diversity is one of the elements that drew us most to UofL. I'm from Lexington. I had no interest in the University of Louisville, and I came here, and there's definitely a spirit of diversity that attracts people here and that keeps them here. And making sure that students with those learning disabilities have the appropriate resources is a great part of that.
Being in a household where my mother is actually disabled and she's on her way to coming to school, this is an issue that is coming relatively important to me. As AVP, I would hope to work with the academics policy board in creating more efficient ways to get out to students in the DRC and make sure that all their needs are met, and really make it an important staple within my platform. Currently, I actually have not worked with anyone in the DRC outside of student orientation staff, but that's definitely something that I would personally want to go and make more connections with in order to best serve those students, and especially hopefully my mother if she makes it in the UofL.
Yep. All right, so I guess this question will be first for you. How do you feel in your role as AVP you could better the
Well, I think the biggest thing is already having that connection with faculty and staff. I've spoken and worked in many occasions with the Black Faculty Staff Association, in which Vice President Jackson belongs to, all the way to tenured Professor Dr. Ricky Jones. So I've been at the table and had talks with faculty and staff all over the university, and I feel that coming to them with an air of professionalism, coming to them with a level of humility, but also coming to them with a strong demeanor of being passionate about the concerns of the students. I feel like all that coupled together really will stand true and help for the advisors to be a little bit more lenient and be more apt to bend to the demands of the students and having more effective advising experiences, or evaluation experiences.
Course evaluations are critical. We actually moved those online relatively recently, and we saved a lot of money doing that. I'm glad that we did that. But on the other hand, the number of students completing them has absolutely plummeted, and that's a very pressing issue. Is actually one of the things I had in my notes to speak about. I think that there needs to be some kind of incentive implemented, maybe something somewhat similar to Student of the Month, whereas one of the first things I'll do if elected is get in contact with IT and see if we can figure out, or if we have the information to see which students actually complete all of their course evaluations. I think that if we market and we advertise the fact that we're going to give away a free parking pass for a year to the student that completes all of their course evaluations, that's at least a way to get the word out that is much better than those emails that we get 3, 4, 5 times a day that quite frankly just bother everyone, and I'm not sure really increase the number of students completing them at all.
I'll pass.
This question: why should you be chosen by students to be AVP over your opponents? Sorry, first.
I feel that I should be chosen as AVP because I have loved this university. I've worked in several leadership opportunities and working in the best interest of students. Working in the African American Male Initiative, I was working with freshmen who were new to the university. I was mentoring to them. I was watching their grades. I was making sure that they were being successful academically. That was something that was dear to me. Also working on the Cardinal Covenant Scholarship Committee, I work with students who come from unfortunate situations, but I always wanted to work in the best interest of those students. I don't have much SGA experience, but I don't think that a student needs to just be involved in SGA in order to make a difference. My work has rang true all over campus. I've built that respect amongst faculty members, and I feel that as your AVP, I can really move things forward. I'm not here for a fancy title. I'm not here for a resume builder. I'm not a career politician. All I want to do is work in the best interest of students. SGA is supposed to be an effective means of communication for the concerns of the students to the administration, and I want to move that forward because UofL is at a critical time right now. It's at a critical time because we're making a transition from being a commuter school to being an actual campus school. So the decisions that the alumni, that the administration, and everyone in this room, decisions that we make are going to affect the direction of the university for the next 20 years. And I'm a student that is conscious of all of those 22,000. I'm a student that doesn't mind going into the SAC and sitting down with anyone from any walk of life and trying to understand what are their concerns and how to make this university better. I'm a passionate individual that wants to put student back in Student Government Association, and I want to make that ring true as your AVP. Excuse me.
I think that I should be chosen for academic vice president. I've spoken a lot about my experience, but like I said in my introduction, experience is not everything, and I most certainly agree with that statement. I think that AVP is special, though, in the fact that since things take so long to be accomplished, I have a real upper hand in the fact that I've gotten to work so closely with both Curtis and Jody. But on another note, my accomplishments in SGA have not been entirely academic in nature either. And I'm almost, equally as excited, if elected to top 4, to get the opportunity to work with 3 other people focused on different realms. College affordability has been a subject of great emphasis for us this year, and I had the privilege of getting the call from Curtis last summer asking me to write several different pieces of legislation for the Senate, but in particular the Kentucky Higher Education Lobbying Program, which is something that I got to see the success of firsthand yesterday. SGA is my passion, and anyone that knows me knows that. I've been involved in a lot of different things on campus as a freshman and also as a sophomore. I've entered many different RSOs, everything from freshman lead, task force freshman, things like that. But SGA has always been my passion. And at the end of the day, I think that's what drives people to do the work that they do, to make this an all year round job, and to answer that call late at night, you know, no matter what the issue is, or like I said, just to be there. There's no option that I won't explore, and there's no opinion from a student that I'll ignore. I want this position. I think that I would do a great job at it, but I need the support of all of you, and I hope that I'll get that.
I guess our last question for everybody is, what trait do you see, Rosado,
Oh, I do. College affordability is something that is a pressing issue within Kentucky, but working with student orientation staff, working with 29 of the most successful leaders at UofL, I understand how team works. I understand that you can't put everything on your back. So, and I understand that that Max Morley has some abilities introduced working on college affordability, and they'll speak about that a little bit later. So I understand that I need to focus on academic policy for the students, and I understand the positions that everyone in SGA has in order to make the system work. So I'm not trying to step on toes, but I want to make sure that I'm doing what's right in the academic realm for students as your AVP.
All right, and the last question. What trait do you think the other person has that best fits the role of academic vice president? Carrie, you go first.
I think that Osiah has an outstanding sense of professionalism. I've mentioned that several times, and that's something that I really value, not just as a member of SGA, but as a student at this university. I think it's something that we lack at times, and that really hurts our reputation, and I think he's very strong in that area.
Sorry.
And I would say the same for Carrie. One of the biggest positives is you were from Lexington. You still decided to come to Louisville. So that was a big thing. That was a big thing. And I can't say any more about your professionalism. That's clearly evident in the way that you speak and the way that you carry yourself. And I know everyone appreciates that.
All right. Well, thank you all.